Hello. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about graphing and writing equations for circles, because a circle is also a graph, and a graph will look like this. A graph of a circle is a graph. It's a combination of points that have the same distance to one exact point. And for all of these points, that is the origin. For all of the circles that we're looking at right now, the origin is the center of the circle. And that means that everything on the circle line itself has the exact same distance to the center, to the origin. All right, let's look at the equation that makes a graph look like a circle. How do we get that? All right. In a circle, every point has the same distance to the center. And do you remember how that is called? The radius. The radius, of course. And this is something that we know from geometry and way back. All right. Okay. Now, how the distance, because that distance is what we're actually looking at. Let's start with one point on the graph and call it x comma y. You see it here, and that distance from the origins to x comma y is the radius. That is that distance. To calculate the distance, we use the distance formula. Do you remember that one? It's that really nice one with the square root. Has something to do with Pythagoras. All right, so we have the square root of x2 minus x1, and that squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. And that will give us the distance. All right, let's plug it in. In this case, our point here is x. We see x is here is our second x value, and our first x value is 0 because that is the origin. Then the y values, you see that the second y value is just y because that's the point that we chose, and the first is 0 because that is the origin. All right, and the distance is r, that radius that we are looking for. All right. Then if we simplify, we get the square root of x squared plus y squared, because x minus 0, of course, is just x, and y minus 0, the same thing, is just y. Now what we're going to do is, to make it a little bit easier, is to square both sides of this equation. And this is what we get. X squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. And that function will give us a circle where r is the radius. All right. In all of these cases, r is a constant value that doesn't change, right? R has to be a specific value to make it a circle. It cannot just be another variable. We have the variables x and y, and a constant value of r squared. All right. For example, this one, we're looking at the radius of this graph, and we see that there's one point on our circle that is 4, 0. And that exact point is the radius away from the origin, just like any other point on a graph. All right, the radius here is 4, because it's from 0 to 4 is the distance from the origin, the center, to the circle, which is 4. All right, if we plug it into the function, it will be x squared plus y squared is equal to 4 squared. All right, and most of the time we'll just write 4 squared as 16. So the function for this circle is x squared plus y squared is equal to 16. All right, let's continue. Let's find the radius of a given function. All right, what's the radius for a function x squared plus y squared is equal to 36? Well, a few of you might see this right away, but we're just going to go over the steps because it's not always this easy. All right, we need to remember the original function. Always start with the standard function, which is x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared, and of course this is only for circles where the center is the origin. That's all what we're looking at today, which tells us that r squared has to be the 36. All right, if we look at the two function, we have 36 on the spot where r squared was, so r squared is 36. All right, making r 6, right, the square root. In a lot of cases, if we square root, we need to remember that plus and minus are both an option, and it's the same in this case. But if we have a radius of -6, if you think about it, it actually goes the other way, meaning that it actually is the exact same. And of course, distances are only positive, so we use the positive value. All right, so the radius is 6 for function x squared plus y squared is equal to 36. And that's all for this video. Next will be a different video about more of graphing and writing an equation for a circle, but then with given coordinates, finding the circle, and finding a tangent line. So watch the next video, and thanks for watching this one.